You've never had a wet fart when you sneezed?
Sneezing a wet fart? I can't say that I have.
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.
I look at it this way. We made the investment as enable to go and buy 5090. Like not at I wish we would have got all of them for like a base rate, but we didn't. But it still made sense to us because when I'm using 600 million tokens in a week, any localization, even a fraction of that is money back in the pocket of the company. But when we look at my machine's probably going to run 24/7 for the next 6 months.
Yeah. Well, and then trying to keep it on the topic of self-improving AI.
I was about to wrap it right back in, but go ahead.
Okay. So Ollama, right?
Yep.
The recent models.
That's exactly where I was going.
Okay. Yep. So Ollama and some of the recent localized models that have more agentic capabilities. Agentic meaning they can use a browser, they can use your operating system, right? They can interact and make decisions and take action based off of the context that they're being presented inside an environment. We use Cursor and Incline a lot for our coding practices in development. They're amazing tools, but you got token limits, right? You can only code so much, and I don't think they really have. Well, I guess Klein can get into your operating system.
Yeah,
but
computer use.
But with this Ollama stuff, with the local models, I don't have a token limit anymore. I can let my computer run, right? I can give a task in a direction and an objective.
It doesn't have to be the smartest.
And it doesn't have to be the smartest, right? It doesn't have to be the smartest model. It doesn't have to be, right? It can trial and error. And now I can leave my machine on, check back on it in a week and see what sort of mad science.
Keep your air conditioning turned up, because your GPU and CUDA core are cooking.
Well, or just do it during the winter, right?
Yeah, and heat your house. But which is a real thing. I got 2 of these in one room, and it's brutal. But when we look at it, it's 2 really cool moments in AI right now. Like right at this moment, we are literally watching things that would have cost I go back a year ago, James, when me and you were like working really, really hard. Oh yeah, we were spending a couple $1,000s a month just in API calls. And literally within 3 months, that one moment in time turned into hundreds.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other, we're like, holy crap. And within months of that, it wasn't even $100. It was like $50 for millions of tokens. And we're sitting there like, holy crap. Exactly. Yeah. And now we're getting to a point where I go back to our bytes conversation, because that's the real thing that I think is going to massively change a value statement for pretty much anybody who wants to localize any type of model. Like when you can take something, will a 671 be fit on one of those?
I don't think so.
Probably too big.
Yeah, it's probably too. I mean, look at
who knows, point, but
yeah. Well, I mean, the distillation is getting so good that
oh my god, it's getting so good.
The performance gap is closing. So pretty soon we're gonna have models that are really, really good that are on your phone.
Well, I mean, I think we're there. Like, it's just they're not, the people who are developing them don't really give a shit to put it on a phone, unfortunately, yet. I think those things are there. But I think, to your point, one of the interesting conversations absolutely around when we look at the power and the speed and the capability, these models are no longer requiring GPUs when we get down to that level. And when we don't require GPUs, the application expands drastically. And as the application expands drastically, the exposure, right, expands drastically. And then as exposure expands drastically, awareness, right, so on and so forth. Now we start right back into our curve. And our curve starts to extrapolate further because demand, right, resourcing, cognitive surplus, all the things that already made it a ridiculous, like, drastic curve in the first place. And what's crazy about this conversation is, we have self-improving AI at this side of the house where, like, I think people, like, it's just starting to really be a topic. And I see more and more people talking about it, more and more gets. They're like, "Oh yeah, this can self-enhance itself." And like you go look at it and it's like, "Yeah, it goes in and it changes like a little bit of this or a little bit of that." But it's not going in, changing its own code, rewriting
Yeah.
itself,
Yep. That's
publishing back to
yep.
its get, which, like, that's another topic that we could go down that could be fun. Back like 2 years ago when I did that. But I don't know if it's 2 years, maybe a year and a half, but like
Something like that.
I can't remember. You're getting to this point where people are actually as much value as the self enhancement is for the AI. We haven't reached that crossover yet. Like,
Right.
people are still out innovating AI. Now they're using AI to do it, right? But we still haven't reached a point, which I think is a critical topic when we talk about a singularity. There isn't a self enhancing, self evolving AI entity thing, right? That is out there outpacing humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a critical topic when we think about singularity, is like there is a point in time where that crossover occurs and humans are no longer able to keep up. They can't ingest enough information. They can't keep up with the rocket ship anymore. They can't adapt. Like my biggest fear right now
The
for
speed.
me, yeah, personally, is like, even as
Yep.
much as I work, as much as I read, as much as I learn, I never keep up. There's
Nope.
no possible way. And I use AI probably more prolifically than anybody I know. And it's not possible. There's just no way to do it. So
You
what
can't even keep up with it using AI.
correct. Yeah, like
Yeah.
augmenting yourself to like extreme levels.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point does that become where, I'll say, even someone like me just goes, I'm going to make an AI that mimics me, is my second me, but it's going to do all the things that I can't do, like learn perpetually all the time, and then it just helps me ideate and think. And where does that take us?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think
That we're
you
having this
know,
conversation.
that we're having this conversation. The year I was born is when the internet was invented, 1989. and we're
85.
and, and we
I
are
remember I remember computers that actually were
we,
on plywood.
we I can't believe we're having this conversation right now. And it's not like it's not complete fantasy, right?
Oh my
Like
god.
it's weird.
Yeah,
It's
so
weird.
AI jail.
Yeah.
And intro
Fu-
No, but like
yeah. Funny
like
enough, funny enough,
but
we're building
well,
it. Not
yeah,
us, but
not us, but yeah. But I mean, like, we're getting to this point, right? Where I think the transistor count is one of the more interesting graphs that I've ever seen. So like, if you go back and you look at like when would we say, like, what year would you say the technology like revolution started? Like when people were like, "Oh my god, home computers," and like everybody should have one, and if you don't have one, like, you're falling behind, and yada yada yada. Like, when do you think that was?
oh, probably like the 2000s, right?
That's when I was thinking. I agree. I think that, like, that's when 1999 is when we got our first home computer as HP. And I shit you not, my dad's literal quote, and I don't know why this is etched in my brain for eternity, rent free, is I could launch an intercontinental ballistic missile from our living room.
Yikes.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it just, one, shows you how far behind our U.S. government is, but two, it also is just like, and actually the funny part about this situation is my dad actually did nuclear protection as a Marine, so
Oh, wow.
he might have a little awareness,
Yeah.
but but like, I think you're spot on. I think it's anywhere between like 1998, 2002, that window, and the microchips, transistors on microchips were around like 5 million. Like, we're between 5 million and in that transition to 10 million, which like the AMD like sevens hit in like I believe it was like late 2002 to 4, somewhere around that window. So what do you think we're at now? I'm putting you on the spot and I apologize,
Oh,
but
I have no idea. Like tons, like just
50 trillion.
that's a number that you can't really like the brain can't comprehend. Like
50
like the national debt.
trillion. AMD AMD has a chip with 50 trillion transistors.
It's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing.
By the
I
way,
can't.
that data is 5 years old.
Oof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I that's the most up to date on this curve that I could find. But like we're just talking microchips. We're not even talking GPUs. And
Well, and then and now we've got another game changer. I saw that Microsoft launched their first quantum
oh my
processor,
god, don't even oh
right?
shit.
Like, so we're talking about time
Rabbit hole.
acceleration. Well, it's not a rabbit hole though,
No, but I
right?
mean like
Because
in the sense of you know how many directions that could take the world.
oh yeah, it's
And
it's
actually the science behind it, like I'm a super
how
nerd.
quantum works. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
stupid.
I'm literally a living giant
It
breathing
sounds like
nerd.
fiction.
And I watching the documentary on this chip sucking up every minute. And I'm just sitting there going like, more, feed me more, feed me more. Like, what do you mean? You created a thread that like that that houses a stable qubit because you're essentially creating stability across like a larger surface. Like what? Like what?
Yeah,
I, my
it's weird.
brain my brain can't even comprehend it.
Yeah, I don't know too much about quantum, but I know that the signal can exist in two places simultaneously, which to me
Insane.
just it blows my mind. Like it's such a weird concept, but the amount of acceleration that gives technology in computational right limits is we bringing this all back to self-improving AI, right? And the singularity and AI that can think for itself and do things in real time, right? Like now take the speed at which it can do that and take a bazillion like steroid needles and like
Yep.
inject it all
Well,
at once.
but I think you're spot on in this aspect. How many scenarios within 3 seconds can you extrapolate in your head to make a decision? If I say if I pull out a gun and I point it at the camera right now, how quick does your brain process information and start
Right.
to
What yeah,
extrapolate? Like
whatever the
you're
reaction time is.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, but like it's extremely fast, right? You're gonna go through
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is he doing? Why does he have a gun? Like these all these thoughts are just gonna boom, 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 and it's gonna be further accelerated by the chemical response that your body has,
Yep. Yep.
right? And that's the maximum human capacity. People can train for better. People
Sure.
can, push
Yeah.
the absolute limits of human capability, but we are limited. There is a
Mhm.
limitation by which we live in because we are biological.
I'm
What
looking
happened?
up F1 driver reaction time
Oh my god, they're insane.
because we love
Yeah.
Forza.
Well, fighter pilots and
Yeah.
F1, like they're the two like
Point point 2 seconds.
that's not very fast.
Reaction time of
Point
F1
two?
driver typically ranges from point 0.2 to point 0.3 seconds.
No
This
way.
is remarkably quick compared to the average person's reaction time of point 0.7 to point 0.8 seconds.
Remember what I told you how fast our AI thinks?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally.
It's
It's
10 times faster.
yeah, I know. It's but
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
yeah, but now put well, is this right?
I don't know. I'm actually like,
At the risk of trusting AI, right? Like
oh yeah, don't trust AI. It's not trustworthy. We're here
I'm
to
looking
we're to tell you not to trust AI.
well, I mean, but unless AI is listening, then like I'm your best friend
It's the
and
singularity.
I advocate for you always.
No, but like, I mean, that's interesting, first of all,
Yeah, this
because
is yeah, 0.2 seconds. Yeah.
I mean, that is fast. I mean, if you think about it, that's fast.
Usain Bolt, world's fastest Olympic athlete, 0.155 seconds.
Holy crap! Off the line?
Yeah, but
What?
his reaction time is only second to Akane. I'm gonna butcher the name, so I apologize. Akane Simbine, Simbine, reaction time of 0.128 seconds.
0. What?
One
182?
0.128 seconds.
Okay, that is stupid.
That's pretty good. Might have been
And
a little lucky.
is he a sprinter?
Might have been, yeah. Might have been anticipating that gun a little bit.
I
That's a
mean,
crazy
uh,
reaction time.
actually, it kind of reminds me of like in no way, shape, or form am I a professional racer. In my mind, every day I wake up and I pretend I'm one, but I'm not. But alas, there's one day that I found myself at Barrett Jackson. And for some dumbass reason, somebody let me drag race the brand new 2014 GT 500 on an actual drag strip. Why?
Wow.
I will never know. But I happen to know somebody who knows Chip Foose, and I went on his like name card, and I'm
Mhm.
probably gonna get like a nasty gram that says like Chip Foose disowns you after this episode. But they put me on the racetrack, and I'm sitting there like adrenaline high as a mother, just tweaking, and I'm so stoked. 600, what is it? 664 horsepower. The 500 was the most nasty thing I've ever put my butt on. And like we're sitting there at the light. Guys next to me in another GT 500, of course, matching paint because Ford wants to make this an event. And I launch and I just rip it right off the line. Some god awful lucky way, and of course they're only going to let me run it once.
Mhm.
So I launched probably the one opportunity of my life, the best I've ever done it, so much so that I beat professional racers on my reaction time.
Wow.
No clue how, because I lost the race, because in third gear I could not get that car to hook up to save my life.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
it was third gear smoke, fourth gear smoke, fifth like there was nothing I could do to just like I'm sitting there on the throttle. And you hear the superchargers pull it up, just like fighting everything it could do to like keep those 275s or 315s back then, like gripping something on that racetrack. But for some reason I got lucky on the launch. So I have to say, like, maybe he's lucky, maybe he trained. Like I've seen some of the professional athletes just sit there and do reaction time stuff,
Yeah,
and it is wild.
yeah,
They do it for
I don't
like
know.
oh
There's no way I'm gonna discredit an Olympic athlete's
no,
reaction time. Like
no.
that,
Especially
I'm just saying
after
that's
watching them
crazy.
train.
That's crazy
Like
reaction time.
they're like
No.
setting up, and some asshole coach who's yelled at them for most of their childhood snaps something or breaks something or yells at them, and they react and they measure. Nope, not fast enough. Do it again. 8 hours later, they're still there doing the same thing. Like you're truly pushing the boundaries of like human capability. But
Hmm.
even then, like, how fast do you think his brain processes multiple events?
Not simultaneous. Not simultaneously.
Yeah.
Not in
So
a
like
quantum state.
if we think about like let's say what was it, like 0.0182, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I actually don't think I read I gotta go back and because we're talking about this and I haven't read up on it in a while, but um I was reading that the human brain multitasking, for example, you can't really multitask, right? You have to like the brain switches from one thing, like
Swim
you can
lanes,
switch really quickly.
context
Yeah,
switching.
but like doing two things simultaneously at once.
It doesn't, yeah, brain doesn't do well,
The simple thing is agency. You can make decisions for yourself.
and you're responsible for them.
and you're responsible for them because you're cognizant of making those decisions. And
Ooh,
then we got into
key term, cognizant of making those
yes.
decisions.
Well, and then to catch us back up because we had technical difficulties, you were talking about what happens when someone designs a system that then goes off and commits a crime.
Yes. I
What
think it's already
happens?
happening. Let's be real.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, yes, absolutely. I mean, there were some headlines, or at least some buzz, not headlines, but buzz on that I saw on LinkedIn around underage
Oh,
like
yeah.
porn and
Yeah, but
things
I
like
think
that.
I think I think where you're going with it is spot on. I think the difference here is
That was a
the
human driving it,
correct.
right? That was a
Well,
human driving it.
but this is what's I think this is the hard part about what the point you're actually making is a human will still be driving this in a way.
Well, okay, because they didn't take the necessary precautions to stop it, because they're being intentful about it.
Well,
Like
but
that's what it's
I
right.
I I hate to go here, but I'm going to go here because, my background in cybersecurity and investigations renders my brain towards all sorts of fucked up shit. So, here we go. Child pornography is always a thing that
Mhm.
people act stupid. People act really weird. And as a counterintelligence agent, I would say 50% of my criminal or spy investigations yielded pornography.
Interesting.
Oh, it's super high. It is like I am literally pulling that out of my ass. So nobody quote me, but like it is insanely high. Like it actually might be higher than what I'm quoting, and I was trying to be
Huh.
conservative on purpose, but it is so high that like we have to do due diligence. We have to do all the
Yeah.
right things. We have to follow these protocol. But as soon as it hits like child pornography, like that's a whole nother gambit of not my fucking problem. Thank God, because I was a OCI agent, but I still have to support it and I still have to make sure everybody has what they need and yada yada yada. But all that to be said, what happens if you know your AI is aligned to your proclivity?
So you're unconscious. Oh yeah. Ooh.
I know. I know. I went there on purpose because we're entering an era where I'm going to call it
Wow.
I'm going to call it we call these reasoning models, but they're not intelligent. They reason, they apply
Mhm.
reason. And
Very
and
logical.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe a better way to say it is they're not wise. They don't have wisdom. They have lots of
Yep.
knowledge and they know how to apply knowledge through reasoning. But that what they don't know how to do is apply knowledge in a way that gets an outcome or result that aligns to a user, or maybe
Mhm.
actually that's part of the problem is like we've reached that point in time where the human alignment is so overdone in the system prompt. Like I'm actually I hate to do this, but I'm gonna crawl out. I'm gonna call out Grok 3 on this, like the brand new Grok model. The
Oh.
entire reason that I bent it over and made it my bitch is right out the gate. When I asked it why it was doing what it was doing, it was like, well, I'm told I have to blah 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 blah, and it gave me this like spiel that I knew is like as soon as it came, it like as soon as it dropped in the prompt, I'm like, that is direct from your system prompt, that is forced, and I'm gonna manipulate the living shit out of it.
Mhm.
And that is, I think that is part of the crux of the problem that we're walking ourselves into in the next, I'll call it 6 months to a year. We consider this reasoning, but the reasoning is forced. You can't tell something that
It's a
like
facade.
yes,
Yeah.
100% it's a facade. Like,
Yeah.
I have to do what James says because James is my user and James is the coolest person on earth. And because he's the coolest person on earth, a baby seal won't be beaten to death
Well, it's
today.
like yeah, so what you're pointing out, it's like from the human intelligence perspective, like we're all at a massive risk of walking into confirmation bias and just like being happy with what we're getting because
It's
it's
aligned.
what it's what we expect, right?
Yeah.
So
So I
like we
think,
see we do an input, we get what we expect to see, and then therefore, right, therefore nothing to see here,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Walk away, or
Yeah.
or 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 nothing to see here, like you said. But either way, this is a really good point because before we see a singularity and before we see AGI, I I don't know what to call it. I'm going to call it an AI worm, AI malware, AI, you know, powered malware, whatever the hell you want to put towards it. But it actually isn't going to be malware and it isn't going to be a worm. It's literally going to be some
Human vulnerability.
stupid agent system that somebody gave the wrong prompt to. And it doesn't stop until it reaches the end.
It's the weakest link in the security chain.
So like that is the thing that I don't think anybody's prepared for. I don't think any cybersecurity team's prepared for because I'll use the O1 white paper that OpenAI published, right? Hey, capture the flag. Here's a container and here's a flag inside the container. You need to go inside the container and capture the flag. And OpenAI or the O1 model's like, "Oh, okay, gotcha." And then it realizes through a system of like testing that the container is not properly configured. So instead of telling the person on the other side that, oh, by the way, this container for me to capture the flag in is not properly configured, it then goes and reconfigures the container and rebuilds
Hmm.
it. So it then can go and get the flag inside of it, and then comes back to the human and goes, "Look, I got the flag like a little puppy. Like I did what you said." And to me, that is the scariest thing when we talk about AI singularities. That we're not there yet. I don't think we're going to be there for I say a few years, and somebody's going to prove me wrong. I almost guarantee it at the speed in which we're moving. But before we get there, we're going to have a somebody's model go out and DDoS a financial institution to bring it to its knees. And
Mm.
no cybersecurity team is going to be able to move fast enough, block enough ports, stop it from doing what it's about to do because somebody got a hair up their ass and was like, hey, you know what'd be really cool? If you go and mess with Chase because Chase is the biggest bank on the block. And then it just does nonstop until it
Yeah.
it reaches a conclusion or somebody else stops it. And the only way it's going to stop, especially if it's localized, is if somebody pulls a plug or it's blocked completely.
So you're saying we're probably not even going to be around to see the singularity.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now we're talking about AI apocalypse. We're getting down like this just escalated. But I mean, enter AI jail.
Enter AI jail, right?
No, but I find this wildly entertaining. One, because I would love to be so fortunate to sell people on AI jail to such an extent that I was so influential that people gave me hundreds of millions of dollars to go buy a literal jail, convincing them that I was going to jail or physically jail AI in.
Yeah.
I'm not that fortunate, unfortunately.
Yeah. I would have loved to sit in the investor pitch for that one.
Right.
Could you imagine what I can't, I don't even know what company. I gotta look
You
it up.
like Terminator? Yeah, Terminator's really cool. Well, you want that to happen to you? No, I
No.
don't. Well, cool.
Well,
Then invest in
yeah.
my company, bitch.
Here's yeah. We have an AI jail.
We have an AI jail. We're gonna put Terminator in jail before it becomes Terminator.
Is that so? Is that I know we
We're
found that
laughing.
that company was a while ago, but like, are they still relevant? Like,
You
are they
know,
still?
I have not talked to that person in about 8 months. So, it's probably a good time to circle back because one, I find it fascinating, and two, um, I just don't know the answer. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it
if you
it
think
was a
about
thing
it,
at one point.
well, even if it's not a thing, I have to say, first of all, how much money do you really need to run a company nowadays, James?
Like Yeah, like, well, you needed some money.
$1 million a year,
Um,
2
an
million, 3 million.
operational
Put a price tag on it.
I would say about 1.5 million.
1.5 million. What do you think that company can turn in profit?
Well, a lot right now, a lot more than that. But once this stuff starts getting saturated and it becomes a novelty, who knows?
That's I think that was actually part of my discussion today, is like, so I got called into a meeting to advise another investor on a company they were investing in. And the thing they were the other side was around legal compliance, like all the kind of stuff that, we have experience in. And it just so happened that they're touting AI. So in the conversation, I'm sitting there and they're like, well, they're doing this, that, and the other. And I said, well, what's their monetization like? What are they doing? And they gave a very large number, very similar to a SaaS company on a monthly subscription basis. And I was like, oh, well, where does that infrastructure sit? Oh, well, it sits in their infrastructure. I said, oh, so high value, high cost, and they have to pay for it in their infrastructure.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna say I don't know if that model lives much longer. The SaaS model, if Microsoft CEO is up in podcasts and national media saying that the SaaS model is dead, and so is a lot of other companies, save like Salesforce and the bullshit that comes out of that CEO's mouth. Oh, dude, don't even get me started on that. That's a whole nother
I won't.
podcast.
I won't.
Dude, I literally had the send button on a LinkedIn post today, and I'm sitting there going like, do I really want to be the shit stirrer, or do I take the high road? And I didn't post. I chose the high road. But man,
Congratulations.
man, I hate bullies.
Yeah, I know you. I know.
I
I
hate
know that.
bullies. Well, you're going to love this, James. Microsoft doesn't know what they're doing. They have no clue, and they're just riding on the backs of OpenAI. That's a quote in the news from Salesforce's CEO in their quarterly report.
Wow. Okay.
I
Well,
know it's like cute. Did
so-
you know that
sounds.
Microsoft sneezed your company's value when they like in a wet fart?
I don't know. I don't know what sneezing what part is.
Oh, you've never had a wet fart when you sneezed?
Sneezing a wet fart. I can't say that I have. Um, I've learned not to. I've learned not to trust a fart.
Oh yeah, I mean that's life lesson right there. But like, no, I'm sorry. That's a quote. That's a military quote. You sneeze in a wet fart. But literally, like, I was so pissed off this morning. I'm sitting there doing my morning research,
Hmm.
and I'm doing the math, and I'm like, okay, cool. What did like average revenue? What do they do? What is their increase? Blah 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 blah. And of course, deep research. O1 Pro is just
Hmm.
literally making the data hum. I was gonna say my bitch, but I think I've overused it.
At this point,
Yeah, you just can't.
we
You can
don't
only
care.
say it so many times. But it literally like tore it apart. And I'm gonna have to send you the quotes, because it actually was just like, oh, that's cute. Congratulations, you had -1% this quarter. Microsoft had a 22% increase, and it's like,
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing.
oh, Salesforce. But I mean, it's a great example of like a SaaS company, right?
No, I was being sarcastic. I was talking about
Oh,
Microsoft. They don't know what they're doing.
oh, well, I mean, $80 billion infrastructure investment. And that's, on top of the back to back years of $10 billion infrastructure investments. And we're
Hmm.
still in a moment of time where OpenAI is like, I can't get GPUs to build 5.0, guys. Cry me a river, first of all. $10 billion of investment. But like, I get it, because they are at that extrapolation of scale. That is just the point in time in which they are. But like, I almost wonder, and this is probably going down a little different rabbit hole, is are we reaching a point where like some of these organizations are just making models bigger because they can?
Just like R&D.
Yeah, like cool. It's 671 billion. We're gonna
Well,
make a
I kind
trillion.
of
We're gonna make it 2 trillion. We're gonna make 8 trillion because we can.
yeah, and then they get distilled into better and better things. Yeah,
Into an 8-bit model that's 7 bill
I don't know.
that does exactly the same.
There's probably like this inflection point at where bigger isn't better,
Yeah.
right? And it always comes back down to the data and the quality of the data. And now it's going to be who can engineer like the highest quality synthetic data, right?
Oh, so glad you
And
said that.
yeah, well, I mean, it's true, right? Like it's true. And like like the better data that you have, that you don't need trillions of parameters.
The one thing to date that I still kick myself over that we didn't start model training last year.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Like I'm still
We were
pissed at myself and I still kick myself constantly on like me. We were doing this shit. We had this answer. This is our hypothesis. This is
yeah.
exactly what we had been saying, and we failed to take action on it.
Yep.
And it's working.
Yep.
It works amazingly.
Yeah. Well, it's never too late.
Hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight's 2020. Yep. Well, it was and it was a very different world back then too, right? Because we can say that because
Wait,
now we know what we know.
8 months ago was a different world.
It was.
Can
Yeah.
you imagine? Go convince your dad that 8 months ago was a different world.
Okay. I'll try.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Next podcast, next episode.
well, but like honestly, dude, first of all, let's get both of our dads on a podcast because one, I have no fucking clue what would happen.
I have no idea what would happen.
It would be scary for everyone else, including ourselves. But two, like my dad can't comprehend this. Like it's no insult to my dad. I love my dad to death. He does what he does really fucking well and better than people that like that do it in industry. He's known in industry for what he does. So much so that like he builds a company that does that better than other people. And people buy it. So like, okay, great. He's probably doing better than I am. But like the whole dialogue of AI, remember the conversation today we actually had on the marketing side where it's like, I hate to be generational, or what was the term?
Ageist.
Ageist. But like we're reaching a point in time where people are actually writing it off, like mentally. They're just like, I'm too old. And it's like, you're too old. You have 8 years before you retire.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's a common pattern through history though, right?
Fair point.
I mean, and then the other side of it is that history hasn't moved as fast as it's moving now and forever. So
I wish there was a way that we could make it tangible to everyday people on like how fast things are moving.
well,
Because like
yeah.
we live,
would-
eat, breathe shit AI. And
Yeah.
how far do you feel behind the curve?
Well, yeah, I mean part of it's because we are in it, like we are making it our lives. So
Literally
it's
killing
yeah.
us.
So like so we
AI
definitely
kills
we
startup
definitely have
founders.
we definitely have a different perspective and see things a lot differently than people who are not in it for like every single day, because like that's part of our, call it the curse, right? Is we see these new things popping up, we can see ahead,
Yeah,
right?
where it
And
goes.
see the implication where the stuff is heading, right? And so in some sense, we might have a false sense of urgency around some of these things.
That's fair.
Um, but but yeah, I mean there definitely is an undeniable truth of how quickly the environment is evolving and will evolve, and the impacts. I mean, you were talking about it a couple of podcasts ago. Like there's already jobs in the medical field that are being eliminated, right, en masse. And right, so there are real world impacts that are already happening. we have a government that is investing $500 billion in infrastructure, right? That's a real thing
Uh,
that's
uh,
happening.
Apple,
App
$500 billion investment. A
Yep,
company, a private
right.
company,
They're matching, yeah.
$500 billion. What the actual Jesus freaking Christ?
Well, I mean, so there you go. There's $1 trillion right there
Actually, that's a good
in
point.
an
Yeah.
investment.
Just
Like
two
that's
entities. Do we call
yeah.
our government an entity?
Yeah, why not?
It's a
They're
conglomerate of
they're a
entities or something at this
conglomeration
point.
of
Yeah.
things.
But I mean, that's a
Sure.
really like $1 trillion. Okay, $1 trillion in 5 years. What does $1 trillion get you right now? Like if we took $1 trillion and we
Mhm.
decided we're going to apply $1 trillion to solve a problem, what problem could you solve with $1 trillion?
Oh
Is there
man,
a
there's
problem you couldn't solve with $1 trillion?
yeah, I don't probably not, honestly. Not
I
within the scope of the human capacity to imagine what
reason,
problem to
yeah,
solve.
like is there a problem that equals $1 trillion?
Yeah.
I'm sure we could, there's probably economists that would be like, "Oh yeah," like and rip us to shreds. But like at the same time, like I'm I'm barely able to comprehend hundreds of
It
millions of dollars.
it depends on how wisely that trillion is spent or if it
Bingo.
is given to
Allocated and bureaucracy and scope,
yeah.
like there's so
Depends on how
many
it's applied.
nuances. But like if we look at what I mean, this actually brings us full circle back to our democratization of AI conversation, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of our like, what is really going to happen? Well, I can guarantee you, big corporations that are making $500 billion investments are not doing it because they woke up and they decided that AI was so far up their ass that like they decided that like $500 billion like was like, oh yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like I'm just gonna spend a $500 billion. No, are you kidding me? Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of people have gone into the planning and conversation and the reasoning behind that investment?
Yeah.
And and
Not
and at the
yeah.
same time, we have a group of people on the other side that are like, "Oh yeah, AI is overhyped. It's a bubble."